Finance Minister advocates need for simplified international tax rules. Indigenizing blockchain technology holds the key to huge financial gains for Africa. Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority annual profit plunges by 33% as revenue dwindles. Oil prices surge after surprise move to cut output. The program is Business Express, reaching you from Abuja, nation's capital. I am Musa Abubakar, your guide. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning Zainab Ahmed is advocating for the need to simplify international tax rules and related instruments for effective and inclusive international tax cooperation. Onengi Fine Face reports that Zainab Ahmed was speaking at the United Nations Economic and Social Council ECOSOC special meeting on international cooperation on tax matters.
United Nations Economic and Social Council special meeting on international cooperation in tax matters provides a global platform for inclusive, evidence-based and action-oriented discussion on domestic and international tax matters. Its objective is to identify concrete options and best practices for fiscal measures in support of more inclusive, resilient and sustainable economies and societies, and to advance progress towards a fair and effective international tax system.
The Secretary-General will continue to call for a large-scale SDG stimulus led by the G20 to ensure all countries can access the funding needed to invest in sustainable development through a triple approach: greater debt relief, more concessional financing, and contingency financing for all in need.
International tax cooperation provides options to countries so that they can, in a fully informed way, choose the approach that is most appropriate for them in their particular circumstances.
The 2020
The Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, in its audited financial results, shows it recorded drops in most of its... Okay. Well, it appears that we are skipping this story. Now we move to business. There are indications that foreign investors are not yet comfortable with Nigeria's external sector position as well as the political environment, as foreign portfolio investment declined by a significant 48.7% in the first 2 months of this year when compared to the corresponding period of 2022. The foreign investors had renewed their divestment measures some months before the general elections, a development which signaled lack of confidence. Latest data released by the Nigerian Exchange Limited revealed that the value of foreign portfolio investment for the months of the year stood at 44.52 billion naira as against 86.74 billion naira in the corresponding period of 2022. In January 2023, the foreign portfolio investment declined by 39.7% to 24.9 billion naira as against 41.31 billion naira in the corresponding period of 2022. In February 2023, it dropped by a whopping 56.8% to 19.62 billion naira, as against 45.43 billion naira in the corresponding period of 2022. Now, how much is the naira exchanging for the currencies? Let's find out. Now, oil prices have surged after several of the world's largest exporters announced surprise cuts in production. The price of Brent crude oil is trading close to $85 a barrel after jumping by almost 6%. Economists warn that the higher oil price could make it harder to bring down the cost of living. Brent crude prices rose after Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and several Gulf states said they were cutting output by more than 1 million barrels of oil a day. In addition, Russia said it will extend its cut of 500,000 barrels per day until the end of the year. Now, Saudi Arabia and other members of the OPEC Plus oil producers announced that they will voluntarily cut oil production in an effort to support the stability of the oil market. To further shed light on what this means for oil producing economies is an oil and gas analyst, Bala Zaka. He joins us from Lagos via telephone. A very good afternoon, Mr. Bala Zaka. It's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you, and I appreciate you and all our listeners and viewers across the globe.
Did I say afternoon or morning?
It's good morning now, but it's morning. All right. Thank you.
Okay, well, to begin the conversation, we've seen these oil-producing countries have now decided to cut out. What does it mean for the energy market?
Well, definitely for the energy market, especially those who are not endowed with crude oil or distillates, it's definitely going to be tough for them. Because generally, in business, especially manufacturing and the rest, when you are carrying out your analysis, by the time you look at your revenues or sales and the cost of sales, the next thing you look at after gross profit will be other expenses. So energy cost is going to be a major expenses. They are going to see an increase in energy cost, and by extension or implication, it is going to affect what we call profit before tax. And to that extent, net profit will be affected. And that is it on those who are into business. Then for what we call strategic domestic sectors, you know, they have to pay more for their lightning. They have to pay more for all the services that they are going to get from basically crude oil and gas products and derivatives. Okay,
oil prices went up after OPEC and allies cut oil output in a surprise move. Do you see crude touching $100 per barrel?
Well, I will not be surprised, especially if the escalation of hostilities continue, especially between Russia and the Western nations. I'm saying this because when you talk about crude oil and gas, you are talking about international commodities, and you are talking about energy sources as we speak today. Regardless of the drive towards renewables and cleaner energy. Fossil fuel is still a force to reckon with today. So if there is relative peace and stability, we are likely to see a control. But one thing again we've seen recently, we've seen a kind of move. Russia is trying to have some relationship with some Asian countries to make sure she does something about her gas and crude oil. So to that extent, the interplay is actually going to be something more political. But for the OPEC member nations, remember, OPEC is a cartel. And as a cartel, OPEC Plus and OPEC Plus will always work in the interest of her member citizens and friends of OPEC. So for OPEC, if the energy crisis is getting to a point where it is going to now internally affect her members, there will be an adjustment. But I will not be surprised if the price spikes or gets to $100 per barrel or even above.
Okay, let's come back home. Let's look at Nigeria. What does it mean for Nigeria? Now, Nigeria is planning to somehow remove subsidies. So with this development, how does it affect Nigeria somehow? Is it something that could be an advantage to us or a disadvantage if you look at it?
Thank you for that excellent question, and I want to believe that as you are speaking also, you are preparing the minds of those who are likely to be the next set of Nigerian leaders and those who will have the opportunity to go back if they have been there before. And this question is fantastic. First of all, let us start with the cut in production. If you look at it, somehow, somewhere, Nigeria is not affected because Nigeria is not even able to meet up with her OPEC quota allocation. But this cut and the increase in the price of crude oil will help Nigeria when it comes to any quantity of crude oil or volume that she intends to export or to sell to the international market. That, of course, is going to be in the benefit of Nigeria. But like we know generally, once you have an increase like this, for countries that have refineries and they carry out refining activities, not only for their internal consumption, but for sales to customers, of course, the cost of refined products will go up. And because Nigeria is an importing country, Nigeria is likely to be seriously affected. So to that extent, Nigeria is not going to have it easy. When it comes to the export, Nigeria does not even have enough to export. So I think for Nigeria, it's not going to look positive. But our belief and hope is that the current political leaders and the new set of leaders will work internally and together. Because the key thing will still remain internal domestication. If we domesticate inside, then we are going to see the benefit. And I want to make something clear. For all the whether OPEC nations or non-OPEC members, the quantity of crude oil they produce for their internal consumption is completely different from what they sell to the external market to generate revenues. So for those countries that refine internally, regardless of the international dynamics, they are not seriously affected. But for Nigeria in particular, I think Nigeria is going to have it hot. Then now the issue of subsidy. Personally, I will talk as a Nigerian, and I will also talk as a public affairs analyst, and I will also talk as somebody who is a watcher of international crude oil and gas activities. Subsidy removal is honestly going to hurt Nigeria. So long as we do not internally domesticate, subsidy removal is going to hurt us. Because what Nigeria, a practical, simple example is, Nigeria will be reduced to a country where you produce so much beans, but every time you need akara or moi moi, you will need to go outside and buy. And if the price of beans is becoming high, anywhere you go to buy that akara or moi moi, you're going to suffer it's going to be expensive. Nigeria will now be reduced to a country where you produce so much cassava, but every time you need cassava flour or you need gari, you will owe tapioca. You now have to go to somebody who probably does not even produce, you know. So in the context of Nigeria, honestly, it's not going to be easy. And I please will need to really appeal that we take it easy. This is the best time to gather think tanks to analyze, because I've recently discovered that many people don't truly know the meaning and definition of subsidy, not to talk of even subsidy removal. Because as I speak to you now, we've removed subsidy in diesel, we've removed subsidy in the aviation fuel and in kerosene, and everybody can see the practical effects. One of the reasons why banks now open at 9 o'clock and close at 3 is because of cost of energy. It's the same thing that is happening to the production sector. So it's very, very clear. The only product that is remaining now for subsidy to be removed is PMS. So there is a need to review things technically. And I've just discovered that when a lot of people are calling for the removal of subsidy, they don't even know the difference between deregulation and privatization. They don't know the difference between commercialization and liberalization. So I really appreciate this question, and I'm appealing to the new set of Nigerian leaders. There is a need for an internal discourse. That's all I can say.
Zaka, where do you think we need to do, what do you think we need to do to address these issues? And considering the fact that we have now discovered oil in the northern part of the country. So what do we need to do to address these issues? Because it seems to be our mainstay, and we need to take advantage of it now and use it to diversify other sectors.
Well, the question you will have asked is this. You know, when you say you have leaders, leaders are fellow citizens that other citizens have collectively decided and handed over the economic, political, and social destiny of the nation for them to manage or pilot in national interest.
But we're still talking about definition here.
We're
talking about action now.
Let me explain now.
Okay.
Let me explain the action now.
Okay.
What we are talking now is this. It is very clear now that it's not the quantity of endowment, natural endowment, that makes a nation rich. Just like it's not the size of a population of a country now that makes it rich. It's the quality of the population. Yes. You can have 200 million citizens, in your country, but another country can just have like 50 million citizens, and they are more organized, they are more productive, and their infant mortality rate and everything will be better than your own country. So that is what we have noticed. So on the discovery of crude oil in Kolmani, Gongola Basin, and what is going on now around in Obi, Nasarawa State, which now falls under Benue Trough. It is also very clear that the Nigerian sedimentary basins are endowed with hydrocarbon. But it is also clear that it is not the quantity of natural endowment that you have that makes you a great nation. It is how well you manage the resources, how well you process these resources, how well you crystallize them into viable products that will attract the market. Because if not, other countries that have less product will take advantage of yours. And that is why you see a country like Nigeria will sell crude oil to countries that are smaller in size but are politically probably more organized and are technically more advanced than Nigeria. They will refine the crude oil and sell it back to Nigeria or sell the products to Nigeria at higher cost. So what we need to do is to get ourselves organized. The first thing we need to do is to accept that internal refining is the way forward. Anybody who tells you that removal of subsidy will bring a solution, no. Because what you need to do is to remove the inefficiencies. And remember, subsidy is a globally accepted economic pain cushioning concept. There is subsidy in health everywhere in the world. There is subsidy in education everywhere in the world. In terms of crude oil and gas, we call it subsidy in energy. So subsidy exists everywhere, but you don't throw away a universal legally and a working concept, what you do is you fight the inefficiencies. Even the reason why we have military and security agencies is because there is a need to provide subsidy in security. So if all the security leaders are not doing well, will you throw them away and scrap it? No, you fight the inefficiencies.
Mr. Zaka, you are now encouraging modular refineries and just in addition to Dangote refineries and other refineries that we could, as much as possible, see coming on board.
No, I'm not encouraging modular refineries looking at our problems, because that is another thing.
But if you're not looking at modular refinery, it takes time to build those big refineries.
No, that is the angle you're looking at. Nigeria is a country, Nigeria is a nation. First of all, modular refineries do not produce petrol.
Okay.
The biggest problem we have now is petrol. And even the few modular refineries that we have attempted to have in Nigeria, you are an energy journalist. Does any of them produce petrol? So Nigeria is a sovereign nation. Nigeria is a country. Nigeria is not a one-man business. So Nigeria can have refineries. Libya has state-owned refineries. Saudi Arabia has state-owned refineries. Iran, Iraq, China, they all have state-owned refineries. And Nigeria is a member of OPEC. So if our refineries are not working, we are a member of a cartel where we can get the help. And that is why I'm happy you are bringing the topic around this time. Modular refineries do not produce petrol. One of the products that is our major requirement today is petrol, because even people who don't have cars, they use petrol in their houses, small business centers and the rest. And that is why we should be very, very cautious in the approach to the removal of subsidy, especially on petrol.
Okay, Mr. Zaka, I understand you're very passionate about the energy sector. And I'm afraid this conversation is an ongoing conversation, and I hope we could really talk more about this, but maybe we'll set another time to continue this conversation. Thank you very much, Bala Zaka.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing it up to our new set of leaders. Okay. Congratulations to everybody.
Thank you very much. Now, moving on, in response to the need for highly skilled personnel to man the food supply chain system for guaranteed quality and safety of food that flow to consumers, the federal government has organized a sensitization meeting on pilot survey of food facilities in Kano.
For us to have a diversified economy, you need to regulate the professionals so that they will be able to contribute their own quota towards the industrialization development of the federal government by way of getting the right people to do the right job.
We chose Kano to be our first area of visit in the country because of the number of people we have here in Kano and the number of products, farm produce, produced here in Kano.
We now will be able to sensitize our people to add value, to take good care of our foods, which will have impact on our health and also on our economy.
Okay. Information and communication technology experts say indigenizing blockchain technology holds key to huge financial gains for Africa. Chidimba in the BC will tell us more.
Blockchain is an emerging technology deployable in all sectors, particularly the business world and the financial market. This shared unchangeable ledger, enabling recording transactions and tracking assets in a business network, ensures trust and transparency in business dealings. Cross-border payment has become seamless and cost-effective. ICT professionals believe blockchain technology holds robust economic potential for Africa.
Unusual, it costs from the traditional finance about 16-17% for someone to send money from Nigeria up to other parts of the world. But then with blockchain, we've seen that one can literally utilize platforms send money for just less than $1 in Western world, where people tax people for trading crypto. We are currently not doing that in Nigeria. That's a huge chunk of opportunity for the economy to actually benefit from.
We're talking about over $1 trillion to tap in from blockchain, and Africa currently is less than 5% of it. So how does Africa benefit from this?
The metaverse is simply a virtual playground, right? And when you use the metaverse, you notice that technology is there, buildings, clothing, assets, attires are not tailored to the African community.
The solution, experts agree, is for African developers to incorporate African culture, goods and services in the blockchain technology. In Abuja, Chimdema Ndubisi, NTA News.
This Monday saw Nigeria's equities market starting the first trading day of April on a bearish note. At the close of the day's session, the all-share index declined to 54,184.34. Its market capitalization also dropped to 29.52 trillion naira. A total of 292.5 million shares valued at 2.38 billion naira in 4,408 deals were traded on the floor of the exchange. Next is Global Stocks Update.
Investors will be keeping an eye on what is expected to be Credit Suisse's final annual general meeting before the bank is taken over by UBS. However, European markets were modestly higher Tuesday, seemingly brushing off concerns over oil price rises after a surprise production cut by the OPEC Plus alliance. Markets in Asia were mixed on Tuesday after the Reserve Bank of Australia held its cash rate target steady at 3.60%. In Japan, the Nikkei 225 rose 0.35% to end at 28,287.42. In mainland China, the Shanghai Composite rose 0.49% to finish at 3,312.56, while the Hong Kong Hang Seng Index dipped 0.57%. Stock futures inched lower Tuesday morning as investors weighed a spike in oil prices that led the S&P 500 higher to start the new trading month. Futures tied to the Dow Jones Industrial Average inched down by 11 points or 0.03%. S&P 500 slipped 0.08% and the Nasdaq Composite also dipped 0.2%. While markets in Africa are yet to post new figures as at the time of this report. Bosse De Able, Business Express.
Well, that's it. Business Express returns tomorrow by 3 p.m. I am Musa Abubakar. Thanks for your company.